We're here live once again at Mike's shop. He's working on a warbird, and thought we'd just come out and have him tell us what's going on with this one.
Well, this one here is a custom request. He wanted to have a black guitar, but yet a warbird, and the choices aren't that many with that particular scenario. This one is a P61 Black Widow, which in the latter part of the war was used as a nighttime bomber and fighter. And there was a squadron of these, and there's probably about, I don't know, I've seen maybe 24 different photos of these particular planes, all having been assigned to this particular nighttime fighting squadron. So this guitar was a Jackson, still is a Jackson Star. It was a 2 humbucker guitar, and so I had to machine this out, machine a plug to go in it, recess it, laminate a cover over top of it, and I also got rid of the extra control knobs on this one. So there's a little bit of work involved with this one, but I could probably pull it up on my phone and we can cue it in. But this was one that I did. That was Matt. I'll have to call him back. This is one that I did several years ago on one of my custom guitars. It was Immortal Sin, and this particular plane was actually named Lady in the Dark, from the very same squadron. Now, I've seen different renditions of this particular squadron insignia. Most of the other stuff here is standardized as far as the American markings and all that fun stuff, but they did have a lot of different variations on the nose art used and so forth and such, which I think you'll find very interesting. There's a couple of rather inexpensive books out there that I think I might even have them around here, but they're approximately maybe 6 by 6. It's kind of more of a coffee table book, and they have nothing but photographs of nose art, and with a little bit of knowledge of aviation and planes from that era, you can figure out what plane that most of this art is on, even despite the fact that you don't see the entire plane. So there's a lot of great history out there. You know, it's just one way to keep it alive and pay tribute to that generation. And I was thinking earlier how lucky I was growing up in that era during the 60s and 70s, where a lot of these people who fought in World War II in their late 40s, they were in their 50s already, and you know, they had stories to tell. There was quite a few of them, but now that I'm in my 50s and you know, it's 2020, we're approaching 80 years since that war. That would put them at 98 years of age, most of them having been drafted at the age of 18 when we do hit that 80-year mark. So these people, they aren't going to be around. You see them, you know, disappearing daily in different posts and dedications and stuff. But I was fortunate that I got to know a lot of these people growing up, because they were my relatives, and the stories that they would have, you know, about things when I was younger. I didn't quite understand them, but I remembered them, and I was able to conclude and put things together later on when I was mature enough to understand those discussions. Having not remembered, I remember the impact that these stories had on my uncles, and you know, so it's always cool for me to enjoy doing this stuff. It was the same with the modeling, doing that. You know, that's how I started airbrushing. I started airbrushing on model planes and model tanks. My mom got me this little single action Binks Wren. I'll never forget it. It hooked up to aerosol bottles. Basically, it was canned air. And I used to have to run down to this place in Wesleyville, Pennsylvania called Caterbones, and pick up these little aerosol cans to airbrush these things. And sometimes I'd forget to unscrew them, and they'd leak out. And this was probably a 3 to 4 mile walk for me to go get these aerosol cans. And so I would do that. I would get the aerosol cans. My dad didn't have a compressor at the time. And the next thing that came up was an adapter that went from a spare tire to your airbrush. So you actually ran your airbrush off a spare tire, and I would like use up the tire, and then if nobody was available, I would have to roll it to the gas station, which was approximately a mile away, or put it on a wagon, or put it on a bicycle and try to carry it there. And of course, it was uphill both ways, and so it was rather difficult. But that's how it started for me, airbrushing on model tanks and cars. We were dealing with air issues at that time. I tried the whole thing of blowing into the end of the air hose and trying to get enough pressure out. It only works on YouTube videos, so it didn't work for me. But nonetheless, it's a little bit of history about the Warbird significance for me and why you see a lot of them from me. And I think that work has just perpetuated itself. People see the work I do in that particular genre of art, and they feel compelled to check it out. It's very popular. Dan Lawrence has been doing it for quite some time. He was probably one of the first guys that I had seen doing this stuff in the late 80s, and always been an inspiration to me. Dan's a very good friend, but Dan has done probably way more than I have ever done as far as the Warbird stuff through Jackson and Charvel. But yeah, so check out his stuff. But I'm working on this one right now, and I'm just taking this photo reference that Diane had given me earlier. So I'm going to be starting off with some underpainting on this one here. I'm going to put my phone up here. So as I said earlier, a lot of this stuff changed. I mean, there was like different artists would do these things. There's different variations. I've seen different variations of the field behind this, where it was just one solid color and there wasn't the blue field. So this one here is going to be exactly pretty close to this one anyway. I'm going to make a couple changes in the mask, but fortunately I saved this mask, and actually I think this is a different one. Yeah, it's slightly different than this one. I'll have to see if I can find that particular file too. So anyways, I'm going to start by removing the fields where the white will remain, and I'm just going to leave the black in behind there. Saw somebody making a post the other day on some airbrush forum about kind of almost degrading the efforts of people who use stencils, and I'm thinking, they haven't done work like this, and you're not doing this freehand. If you do, you're not doing it a service necessarily. So that's why I like to use mascot. My ego doesn't need to be propped up because of the way I'm doing something. I just look at the end results as being the most important aspect of what I'm doing. So I'm leaving the black down. I'm going to be doing a little bit of brushwork on this too. I like to do as much as I can with the airbrush because it leaves a less topography on the surface than when I fire up the striping urethanes or striping enamels like One Shot or any other type of striping urethanes. But I've been using a lot of alpha enamel lately. Alpha enamel's been relatively new to the market. I think it's just ingenious how they actually listened to other artists and decided to go with the squeeze flip cap on these things, which is, saves a lot of materials. This stuff I can clear over with the urethane after about a 24-hour period, and I have absolutely no issues. So let's see, I'm going to pull out this next. Some of this is it's a thought process. If I was to do more, I would actually develop a process that might be a little bit more efficient as far as the masking and unmasking sequence, but not in that big of a hurry. So when I do the Grateful Dead guitars, I have to really, really, really be efficient because there's so much masking, counter masking, color changes, and I would put in more effort to streamline my process, but you get caught up into trying to do shit fast all the time. It just doesn't make your job all that exciting. You're just looking at the clock all the time, and so and that's been difficult for me to retrain myself, because having worked at Dino's for so many years and painting thousands of motorcycles for Borghett's, there was no time to really sit back and enjoy what you were doing necessarily. It was a paint mill, and sometimes trigger myself thinking about those days. So when I don't have to get in too big of a rush, it's always enjoyable, that much more anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull out the center around here. Notice I'm saving all these little pieces. I actually have all these files. Maybe at some point in time we'll figure out a way to get them to the public and people will have this stuff accessible. It's not necessarily anything that I've created. I've just done the math on basically this stuff, and that's from history, and and put these things together in a vector file. So I can't say that I would be offended by other people using it, because it's documented and historically correct. I think what you would do with that creatively is where we would all differ, and you get a chance to see different approaches and different takes on these things. So thought about selling the vinyl kits at one point in time. We were going to make up what we're going to call it, Axe Mask. We were going to sell the kits. Life took over, one thing after another, blah 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 blah. So, any questions from anybody? Hey Jim, what's up, buddy? Thanks for the album, man. So it's a Friday, and I don't have anything particularly planned for the weekend. Lately, it's just been kind of just enjoying being around the house and hanging out, riding the bicycles, and getting out.
I'm gonna enjoy some cooler weather this weekend. Finally getting a break around here.
Yeah, it's supposed to be decent. So we will see, though.
Yeah, indeed.
Oftentimes what I'll do on these things too is I'll cut a second one, and I have a second one cut, and that way I can just access pieces that I don't have on there right now. So I'm going to go to my second file if I can find it somewhere. I think it's out here. Excuse me. So the nice thing about doing these and using stencils or masks is because it gives you a lot of flexibility. And I haven't had to cut on this surface once. Another big bonus in learning how to use like Corel or Illustrator. It's definitely the money to invest to do it. It's worthwhile. So pop that back in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of tape over it. I'm just going to trim it. Or what I could do is come over to the computer, and I could actually go to the file. That was the mock-up, so I'm going to go out here to the P61 file, and I could go in here and I can actually just grab elements that I want for the masking system. I'll just grab all those. Nope. Are going to have to be contained. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to come over here and create one big mask for the face that I can just put down in one piece. So now I'm going to do that is zoom in on here, okay, and I'm going to grab this line segmenting tool, and I'm just going to get rid of this. Get rid of a whole lot of these items here. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. This is all extra from duplicating. And I'm going to need that. Right now I'm going to get rid of this segment. Take the segment tool, and I'm going to actually go in there like that. Boom. Get rid of that. So now I have just this area of masks on the face that will actually do this too. I'm gonna have to break this apart because it's part of that long segment. So we're gonna back up, zoom out, get rid of that. Don't need that. I'm just gonna select this, take this, put that there. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take this whole thing, and I'm just gonna make this whole flashlight element one giant piece. And I'll take the line segment tool, get rid of that, get rid of that. So, modifying my shapes. I haven't had to cut anything, which is very handy. And the best thing of it is I save this file, I can do it all over again. Copy. I'm gonna go out here, get rid of all this, and turn the printer on. Reset the origin, hit cut. Yep, done. Now, like I said, if I was doing even more than one of these, this would save so much time. This whole process, even that took a couple minutes just to do that, but it's worth it in the long run. I just want to get the registration just right on these things. Alright, so I got that center part there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray the yellow on there. No, I'm going to pull the mask and get the eyes, get those eyes cut off. Protect all that stuff. Alright. So this little guy right here.
It's like a sticker book.
So this guy will go in and cover all this stuff and protect it all simultaneously. And the new materials that they're coming out with at FBS are going to make this really enjoyable. In the future, you guys are going to love the stuff that they've been working on. So I'm going to hold off on doing any more details on the cat. I'm going to do that all last. Now I'm going to do the background. I'm going to put a little color in the cup. And I'm busting out the old Iwata HPCS. I use this brush quite a bit for fills. I use that in the peak. I've been using... turn that fan on if you want. So it don't take much. I've been using the Rich pen for a lot of the detailing. Now I'm going to go around this. Do the orange. That's, you know, nothing I think I couldn't teach somebody to do that's had their airbrush in their hand for less than an hour. I mean, it's really simple stuff to be able to manipulate the mask and, you know, little light fade work. So a lot of the classes that we've been doing with the Airbrush Art Circus are based upon the idea that anybody can get involved with painting these guitars using this system, this mask, and all that fun stuff. And we've been doing pretty good with it. Yeah, this is a different mask than that one. That file's somewhere on my computer. Throughout the past 20-some years now, I've got CorelDRAW files that are, I mean, they're all over the place. Thousands and thousands and thousands of files. And I'm going to do is
You gotta have a mask for that middle one, right?
Yep. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break out this new stuff. So this is the stuff FBS has been working on. And this is something to get excited about in the industry. This is a translucent mask. And you're asking yourself, Mike, why are you using a translucent mask? Well, because when you're getting into multiple registrations and you want things to overlay properly, sometimes it's tough to see the edge of the underlaying masks. So, normally I've been using, what's the Cal mask, right, Di?
Avery paint mask.
Paint mask. And then been using the FBS UTG plotter mask. We also have the blue stuff. I've been using this a lot on flat stuff. This stuff here looks like it's got a little bit more flexibility here, but it looks relatively thin as well. So what I'm going to do primarily is do a test cut, and yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my CorelDRAW file.
Oh, back over here.
And then I'm just going to just set up a couple guidelines that'll kind of get me the offset that I need around the circle. And then I'm going to start here in the intersection XY guidelines, and then I'm going to hit Shift. I'm going to pull a circle. Whoops, I'm going to hit Control. And I want to pull that circle out there. And it's not concentric, but that's not important right now. So I'm just going to take that, make sure that it's got no fill, which I believe I'm working in wireframe anyway, so yeah. Alright. And then I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring that right down to the plotter driver for Roland. Might as well give them a plug because Roland kicks ass. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of people say, oh, too expensive, too expensive. And I'm like, well, when you need customer service, they earn every penny, I'll tell you that. So, here it is. Translucent film. Look at that.
Nice. Let's go look at it over here.
Translucent plotter film, people. Stuff to get excited about.
I've been waiting for this for years.
So now I can just place this over top here, get it centered. It stretches a little bit. It's got a little bit of flex to it, kind of like the blue vinyl mask, but it adheres really well. So that's that. That's all protected. Get my white airbrush again. Get ready to get Diana smoked out here. Light film. I'm not trying to get perfect coverage. I'm just getting an undercoat. Alright, so here's my color I made up here. It's kind of like a bluish green, greenish blue, however you have it. And I'm trying to keep my edges light on this stuff. I don't want to create like massive paint edges along the film. You know, when you get these guitars, I typically have to clear twice. Just like when you do a motorcycle with heavy graphics, the customers expect a flat finish on here. So usually what I'll do is the first round will be to fill any sort of topography on the surface. That gets sanded back, and then from there do a little bit more clear on top of that again. Let's do the red next. I think I put all these pieces in here.
They're there.
So that film peeled off real nice. You still see through it. It's pretty stretchy. It's got a little bit of stretch to it, which is typical of any plastic-based film. The paper stuff, the UTG stuff they have, well, you can't do that with that material. You couldn't stretch it at all. But so there is. It doesn't necessarily have a bounce back, but it would be definitely great for going over curved surfaces because you can get quite a bit of crown off of that. You see, that's considerable. So check those guys out. They've always got cool stuff. protecting it. I'm just setting it up on there, so not necessarily perfectly aligned on the upper part, but enough to protect what I'm going to be doing here. Make sure that's done. Make sure that stays done. Alright. So I'm going to peel all of that now.
The big reveal.
Yeah. The big reveal. I'm going to see what I got to clean up, if anything. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do... I'm going to do a little bit of white airbrushing on there. And what I'm doing is just kind of setting up some highlights. Real light. Nothing too heavy. And some well overduced white, and I'm going to utilize the mask as a template for the arm, so I'm going to do a little bit more coming up the backside, and the arm will stay separated like that. And I can peel all that. Like that. And then finally peel this. And there we go. I think what I will do though is take this. So now I have all these elements. I can just pop them in as I want. I'm going to go ahead and put that down, and then I'm going to do a little overshadow. Well reduced, a little bit of dark gray, not complete black. And just enough there. I'm going to do this. Get a little bit more facial feature on there. And shadow. And there we go. I'll go ahead and peel that off. I do all the markings before I do all the rivets. I like to do the rivets over top of the markings, gives it more of an authentic look. So there we are. Warbird 101.